Good morning. My name is Terrence Wall, and I want to welcome you to the February Holmdel Chamber of Commerce ChamberCast. I want to thank everyone for being here. We're going to have a great meeting. We have a fantastic panel, and our hope is that from this meeting, you're going to be educated on different issues going on today for Heart Month. February is Heart Month, and so we're here to educate, communicate, and for folks to leave, even within our own panel, with information that you can use for yourself, your family, your business, and the folks that are around you. I want to thank everyone for being here today. We're going to be streaming live from Facebook. So remember, if you are watching this on Facebook, consider having a watch party so you can spread the good word, because this is Heart Month, and the information that you're going to get today is going to be fantastic and useful for yourself. You never know when you may save a life, and the life you save may be your own. You know, a number of years ago, I was just sitting typing behind a computer, and all of a sudden, I felt my heart beat real fast, and it was just very sudden. It was very surprising, and I paused and I was like, "What exactly is going on right now?" So I stood up and I'm thinking, and I'm like, I wasn't sure what's going on. I went down to the kitchen, and I thought I had that feeling of impending doom, and then I realized I'm having the feeling of impending doom. My heart was racing. It turns out it was about 220 beats a minute. Little did I know at the time, even though I was previously volunteered as an EMT, and I remember Jim Schatzel is here as a guest, president of Team Life. I always remember thinking, what's the ETA on the medics? You know, because the BLS system is great, but it's partnering with the paramedics in teamwork. And then I'm realizing I need one myself. So I called my wife. I should have called 911 first, but I called Jeannie, and I said, I think I got a problem. My heart was exploding out of my chest, it felt like. And I didn't know at the time it was supraventricular tachycardia. And I was I needed assistance to get out of it. To me, I'm thinking, I'm going to die on my kitchen floor. And you go through those feelings and you realize, oh my God, is that it? And it's very shocking, you know, and it really takes you to your core that this is potentially this floor at this moment with so much unfinished business. So ultimately, the fantastic team of the First Aid Squad came in. Now, they asked me if I fell down because I was right inside the front door, literally laying on my back. And so they figured I fell down and had some different injury. But I just remembered, I thought, I don't want to get on that stair chair and get banged down the steps, and then they're having trouble getting me out in the ambulance. So, you know, we all have a story. Or we have folks that we know who have stories. And it might be triumph, it may be tragedy. And so for me, it ultimately ended up being a cardiac ablation with Taya Glotzer up in Hackensack Hospital up north, where I call it map it and zap it. And I'm learning about that there's the electrical side of the heart, or the electrician as it were, and plumbing, right? The other aspects of heart health. So we experiencing things on our own or through our practice or through our work or our family. And we're going to talk about that today to help inform folks and help share new information. Now, what we do, we're streaming live. We also like to welcome guests that did come here today. Bell Works and Ralph Zucker, we're within his vision here, and this is a perfect describer of the dream and vision that he has. But we like to go around the room, and if we can, Jeannie, so we can introduce the folks that joined us and say hello.
Good morning. We do have a small audience because of guidelines. Next month, we will be able to open it up bigger. So tell us about what you do, Leslie.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Leslie Murray, and my company is called Clear Sky Life Transitions. What I do is I help people through major change in their life based on emotional intelligence, not just people, but also corporations. So any difficulty that you're going through, like especially now, a lot of crazy things are going on, I can help you get to the next step.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Frank Satara, Chief Hospital Executive at Bayshore Medical Center, part of Hackensack Meridian Health Network, and here every day in and out of the hospital, making sure that we're serving our community as best we can, offering the services, most optimal services. And I just want to thank this panel for getting together and doing this today. It's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. There are usually about 300 to 400 people tuning into this live broadcast, and then there are thousands that then watch it later. So even though the audience here is small, the panel is speaking to a very large audience. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle Fugit. I'm Director of Recreation at Chairwoman at Holmdel. And since our last visit or gathering here, I'm excited to say I am fully vaccinated along with a lot of our team and our members. And it just gives us a lot of hope of we're in the home stretch. But we continue to work with our residents to keep them healthy, to keep them safe, and to have recoveries. And there are more recoveries right now. So,
Thanks, Michelle.
Hi, Al Aloisi. I'm your independent insurance broker, and I take care of life and health and annuities, and been doing that for a long time. Again, Al Aloisi.
And that was Al on the piano as you were coming in. Thanks, Al.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having this very important topic. My name's Angela Ashley, and I'm with Spring Hills Post-Acute Facility in Mattawan. We're one of the only other vented units. We're a 23-bed vent unit, but I'm very excited because we are launching a cardiac program starting this month. And we're very, very excited, partnering with a lot of the community hospitals with this program, which will alleviate the length of stay at the hospitals. I'm very excited. I do have more information, and I'm very happy to be part of the chamber. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Good morning. I'm Kerry Kuskowski. I'm with The Connection. We're a managed IT security services provider. And what we do is basically protect you from harmful threats to your businesses and your clients' vulnerable data. We do offer dark web scanning, complimentary, and you can find us on tconnection.com.
Thanks, Carrie. Hi, Mary.
Good morning, everyone. Mary Vasilakis, and I'm with Arbonne International. We are a 40-year-old health and wellness company, botanically based, all vegan, and basically I help people create a second stream of income using our products, whether you're a college student all the way up to retirees. And we're an international company, and if anybody has any questions, let me know, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the panel has to say.
I'm Jeannie Wall, and I'm the publisher of Tap Into for Holmdel, Colts Neck, Middletown, and I just launched Hazlitt and Keyport in November. And in 2020, I had almost 70,000 unique readers. So it's a great way to tell your business story. It's a great way to share your news with the community. It's the perfect platform for advertising, PR, and community relations. Thank you.
Thank you, and a shout out to Ming Chen for Shared Universe Podcast to assist us with our services. As you know, COVID around March or so shut down the world in many respects. And so different companies and businesses and medical practices and foundations, nonprofits and for-profit companies had to be nimble and figure out, well, what do you do? To work with this new environment, during the acute stage of the environment, and hopefully during the receding phase and moving forward to what's beyond, today. So the Holmdel Chamber of Commerce similarly thought, well, do you not meet? Do you get together? How do you meet? Do you go on Zoom? Which, raise your hands, don't, if you like Zoom, right? So I hear, I'm done with Zoom, and basically everybody else is. So it's how do you move forward, but also continue to communicate and get the word out. And that's what's great about having this video podcast, and that's part of the format that we have today. So let's get right into it. We have some really fantastic guests, and what you're going to notice after the introduction of the guests is that you are in the safest Chamber of Commerce meeting in the country today at Bellworks, which, by the way, is open to the public with wonderful shops and things to do and strolling around and great places to eat. So come into Bellworks. It's safe. All the protocols are in place, and they're open for business, and it's a very welcome area. And in the event that any folks need workspace, check out CoLabs. It's brand new, it's gorgeous, it's incredible, and it's really something that is one of the gems of Ralph Zucker's vision here in Bellworks. So we have a fellow that I've known for a long time, years ago, Shaddy and his handsome brother were on the first aid squad in Holmdel. He went on to become an interventional cardiologist, his brother as well, and the family is a team of doctors, and they have some special stories together during their journeys in medicine. Dr. Shaddy Younan, he's a interventional cardiologist with over 22 years of experience in the medical field, extensive experience in the cardiac electrical system procedures, heart conditions, and adult congenital heart conditions. Because we're going to talk about also what the cutting edge, bleeding edge, if you would, technology is today to take advantage of to ensure that you have the best longevity possible in terms of quantity and quality of your life and that of your friends and family. We also have Patty Micale here, Chairwoman of the Hackensack Meridian Health Women's Heart Fund. And they're doing fantastic work, raising over $700,000, and she's going to share some stories that will really empower you, empower women and men as well on the journey to heart health. Doreen DeMarco is also with us. Doreen DeMarco is a board member for Hackensack Meridian Health Women's Heart Fund. She also happens to be Holmdel's #1 real estate agent and number 29 in Monmouth and Ocean County combined. Congratulations. And what does that mean? If you really want to get things done for women's heart health, talk to a busy person. You want to get something done? Talk to somebody who's already really busy. And if they're passionate about it, they'll make sure that they take the time out to make sure that that also happens. And we also have Brian Druker here. Brian, dashing guy, and also the owner of Bell Pharmacy here, which is newly opened in Bell Health and a partner in Bell Health with another great guy, Sal Cannizzaro, right? And
Yes.
Yeah, so they're part of the team here at Bell Health, and we'll be talking about that. So you're familiar with his programs and his business development expertise. So looking forward to hearing from you and what you're seeing in pharmacy today.
Happy to be here.
Well, glad you're here too. And I have to introduce a fellow that I've known for many, many years, Jim Schatzel. Jim Schatzel, in addition to being just a fantastic, fantastic person, dedicated to emergency medical care for so many years, decades. I knew him when I was volunteering as an EMT on the Holmdel First Aid Squad. And I say, there was a call, it was a pediatric choking victim. I remember it distinctly. And it was many, many years ago. And I remember, because BLS is basic life support, you're trained to a certain level, but basically you're designed to help get people rapidly transported to facilities like Frank's, Bayshore Hospital, Hackensack Meridian Systems, so they can be in that acute care setting and be taken care of by folks who do that for a living every single day in their specialty. But I got to tell you, I remember getting on, I think it was 1862, it was 1862 to Holmdel. What is the ETA on the medics? Because I knew that's who was needed to be there to help that little baby and to ensure that that baby's life was saved, and that baby's life was saved. With people like Jim Schatzel, who's also a paramedic, which is part of his background. He's president of Team Life, and he'll be talking about AEDs, which is the SCA, the sudden cardiac arrest aspect, the electrical aspect of heart health, which is what the item that I had experienced and so many people do. And so, and what's this all about? Well, let me give you a number. In America, 655,000 Americans die every year. Am I on track? From heart disease. 655,000 die. One every 36 seconds. Think about the time we were here so far today. How many people died in America from an issue that has a tremendous amount of prevention, and we're going to be talking about that, prevention opportunity, right? So those are the numbers, and that's why this is so important, to the point where president after president has honored this month as Heart Month, and there's a reason for that. And so, so whether it's out of a triumph and also tragedy, people can do well by doing good, by also building on their legacies and their families' legacies. And that's why also we're very thrilled and respectful of having Dorothea Zando here, who is on behalf of the Victor Zando Foundation. Victor, who is a fantastic brother who had passed away when he was 44 years old while he was running. And she has a story to tell that can help save a life. And we're going to start with a parable which will bring all the folks together here and also on Facebook and anyone who's watching this. It's a very interesting parable that she had shared with me that I'd like her to share with everyone here now, the parable of the starfish.
Okay. Thank you, Terrence. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. So one of our big inspirations for the foundation, obviously besides my brother, was the parable of the starfish. And for those of you who don't know it, the story goes that there was a man walking down a beach that was just filled with starfish that had come up and been washed along the shore, millions of them. And he started to pick up each one and throw it back in the ocean one by one. And someone else came up to him and pointed out that, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? There's millions of starfish on this beach. You're not going to make a difference. Why bother? And he picked up one and he looked at the man and he said, I can make a difference to this one. And he threw the starfish back into the ocean. So that short story has kind of become one of our one of our central inspirations for the foundation.
And I thought that was such an interesting story when we were talking. And as we're going here, I know I'm speaking a lot up front, but this is interactive as well, so feel free to discuss and interject and share some thoughts, because the idea is to develop a matrix of communication for the people that are here. So let's bring it back a little bit. And talk about the heart. Talk about, the heart is used in so many different things. I was saying to Dr. Younan a little earlier, having a heart-to-heart conversation, getting to the heart of the matter, right? It's so ubiquitous in our everyday life. But Dr. Younan, can you talk to us about the heart? What is it? How does it work? How does it function? And what are the different things that we need to be thinking about today and moving forward?
Clearly, the heart is obviously one of the central organs in the body, in addition to the brain. Before we go into talking about the heart, I think just to put things in perspective, people have been focusing on the heart for probably since the 1950s and 60s with regards to science. But a big part of the improvement in people's health over the years and increasing life expectancy has been the improvements in technologies and in medicine and in science. And you saw that every decade there was some big leap in technology in cardiology. And obviously all the doctors and the scientists and the universities helped institute a lot of those things. But what shouldn't be lost too is that a lot of the local work that's done by the foundations, as you see here, both the American Heart Association and a lot of local foundations, help promote that word. And a big part of the improvement in the life expectancy is the public relation campaigns that these foundations provide to make people aware that when they do have chest pain, make sure you come to the hospital. When you do feel something unusual, whether it's an SVT or something that's heart-related, make sure you see your doctor right away and get some information so you don't just sit on it and have a sudden death. And I think that's a big part of what's transpired over the past 40 or 50 years. With regards to the heart, it's hard to encompass everything with the heart in one short discussion, but when you look at how we've evolved, we've really advanced tremendously in technology. And we're trying to achieve these longevity milestones of getting everyone to live to 90 years old or even 100 years old. Other countries do it great. The U.S. has done it great by scientific research, by great medicines, by great technologies we discussed. The next phase now, I think that everyone's promoting, and a lot of the foundations are promoting now, is now going into prevention. And that's what we're trying to achieve now, is through different health and nutritional things, supplements, where the debate of all these things goes. And that's something we can all discuss here in the forum today.
As far as the technology, are you seeing what's the most emerging technology that you're seeing? And does that tie to foundation work about funding it and some of these new technologies for people, or perhaps access? I know you have some transportation that you bring devices to different locations.
The technology, the big thing now is valvular heart disease. Historically, you had to go through open heart surgery to have your valvular disease treated. And what that involved, for those people who don't know, is you would get the surgery done, and obviously there was a lot of prior testing before getting to surgery, but once you had the surgery done, you spent at least a week in the hospital. You had your chest cracked open, and even though you may have been lucky enough to go home after 1 week, you still really didn't feel your full self for about another 3 to 6 months thereafter. Nowadays, with the new technologies that are around, particularly the aortic valve, for instance, you can put a small catheter that's about less than a centimeter in size. You put it in through the femoral artery here in your leg. You pass that up to the heart, and you can actually change someone's aortic valve, and they can go home the next day. There's advances in the mitral valve, which is also progressing over the past 3 or 4 years, and I think you're going to continue to see the exponential growth in that over the next few years. And the same timeline applies there. People sit in the hospital for a week. When they go through surgery, they need a 3 to 6 month course of recovering, and now the same thing. Now we have some devices now that are available where you can go home the next day after treating your mitral valve, and that technological leap is going to keep continuing over the next decade.
And you have also an interesting story about your dad, Dr. George Younan, correct? That involves also your electrophysiologist in the family, your brother.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Would you like to share that story?
Yeah, I think a lot of people may have heard it before, but it was a great story in the sense that we had worked for many years, at Bayshore Hospital. My dad has been there for about 44 years now, I think, and counting. And he had worked hard over the years to establish a good cardiac center at Bayshore Hospital and to establish the cath lab there. And about 2 weeks after he established it, he ended up having a heart attack. And we brought him over to Bayshore Hospital, me and my brother, and we were able to successfully treat him there. And he's back to work and doing great.
Did you give him some guidance on nutritional supplements and diet, lifestyle?
Well, nutritionally, he always was good. My mom's a great cook. He always ate healthy. That wasn't really, I think, his factor. I think the biggest factor was stress for him because he was working 18, 20-hour days for over the period of 30-some years. And I think that was the thing that took a toll, which is a big factor, I think, in all of our communities here. Well, the medical community has underestimated for many years is with the impact of stress, and we always focused on medicines and diet, and they're all important, but one thing we always underlooked was stress. And I think over the past 5 years, the medical community, particularly the cardiology community in the American College of Cardiology, the American Heart Association, they're really focusing on stress now, and they realize what an impact that has. And obviously you can't avoid stress, but they're teaching people how to deal with stress and trying to adopt some of the lifestyles that you see in other countries where they're able to absorb stress in a different way, whether it's through family interventions, through social interactions with people, through leisure activities, trying to emulate the lifestyles that they have, for instance, in the Mediterranean and Italy and southern France, in those countries. We can never be just like them, but if you can adopt some of those principles, hopefully we can decrease some of the stress in our communities here.
Well, you're mentioning stress. I think it's a good segue into what's happening today with the stress and surrounding and involving, COVID-19. Well, when I volunteer in the Holmdel Board of Education, and I'm extremely proud that Holmdel is one of the public schools that is open all week long, no cohorts, Monday through Friday since December 14th, right? So I look statewide, and I feel so strongly for the children who are disenfranchised, frankly, from their classrooms. And that level of stress and that level on the parents and their caregivers. Can you speak to that, and also the COVID-19 impact on heart health, where there's the anecdotal or more than anecdotal evidence of the impact on the cardiac, the heart muscle, for folks who have suffered through or may still suffer through COVID-19, the coronavirus?
We definitely saw some impact of the virus on the heart, over the past year and a couple of months that we've been studying it. When it first came out, there were, you may have heard some of the reports in the media where a lot of the college football players ended up with some of the virus and it affected their heart muscle and some other athletes across the country. Luckily, now that we've learned a little bit more about it, we don't think that the virus's effect on the heart is any higher than other viruses that can affect the heart. And some people don't know that, but some of the influenza viruses that we've had over the years or some of the other viruses that people have sustained over the years were affecting the heart. And it's less than 1% chance that it can affect the heart. And that seems to be the case with the coronavirus as well. Obviously, when it does happen, it can be a catastrophic event or a dramatic event. But luckily, it's not a common event.
Okay. And thank you very much for that. And part of what the folks like in your world do is to help save lives and prolong life and to get better outcomes. But a big part of that is the infrastructure that brings the patient to you, right? Like if right now if something happened, like I mentioned, you're in the safest place probably in the state. But this ties to the foundation work and ties to the emergency service providers and getting the folks who need that help immediately in Bayshore Hospital, in Riverview, and in the systems. So you're involved, Patty, as chairwoman of the Women's Heart Fund with Hackensack Meridian, and as well as Doreen as a board member. Can you speak to the work that you're doing? And also, and by the way, if you have a website and links that people can go to contribute, to financially support that work, which ties to, as you see, it's all connected, right? Can you speak to that work? And I believe you have a story as well.
A few stories, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I'm thrilled to be here. I'm the present chair of the Women's Heart Fund. This is my second term as a chair. It's something I believe in. We started in 2006, so we're 15 years old this year. We've raised over $700,000 that we've given back to the community. When I first started, when I was asked to join it, it was something, this might be something that would be worthwhile. The statistics were 1 in 8 people die of breast cancer. 1 in 8 women, die of breast cancer. 1 in 3 die of heart disease. I mean, that's, really of an imbalance, and you get all the stuff, which thank God you do, about breast cancer. And I go every year for my mammogram, and I'm scared to death, and I'm convinced I'm going to die of breast cancer. And yet, look at the statistics. I'm pretty sure I'm going to die of heart disease. And there's nothing, where's the prevention in this? This is what we need. One of the things that the Women's Heart Fund did was it was developed the angio screen. And the angio screen is like just a screening. It does not in any way, shape, or form have anything that you should not go to a doctor. It's just a screening, but it's a little bit of a helpful thing that you can go and do it. And right now it's in a van. One of the things we did was we gave the money for the van, and it goes all over the Hackensack Meridian system. It goes to Bayshore, it goes to Riverview. You can sign up for this, and it's a screening. It's your carotid artery, it's all sorts of things. I have information about it. A lot of stuff I don't understand, but whatever. The screening takes about 10 minutes. There are 2 nurses doing it, and the best part of it was a nurse sat down with me for a good 10 minutes and explained everything to me, which, the words they're not easy. And it was really a wonderful experience. I've had it twice. It's non-invasive, so you just, they just put probes on you, take your blood pressure and stuff like that. But there are 6 different things they do. And then one year we decided as our initiative was to get this van out and the screening process to underserved communities. So we donated that, and those people didn't have to pay for it. It usually is something, it's about $50, and insurance doesn't cover it. But it's well worth it. And everyone is advised that, you get your sheet of paper, and everyone's advised to take it to your doctor. Okay? So that's one of the reasons that I loved, that was one of our initiatives. My story is about, my husband was a physician, and in 2002, he came home from the hospital one day and said he didn't feel well. We were supposed to go to New York that night, and he said, "Do you mind if we don't go? I just want to go to bed." I said, "Fine, I'll make you some chicken soup. We'll go to bed. This is fine." And he said, "Just a crazy day." He said, "I had this terrible heartburn. The nurses were giving me Nexium." I said, "Oh, that's good. I don't have any Nexium, but we have some Tums. You want a Tum?" And he goes to bed, and he said, "Okay, I'm just going to bed." So he goes to bed. The next morning he gets up, and this is the first time in all the years we were married, he could not go to work. He said, "I just feel so tired. I guess it was December, I'm coming down with the flu. So I think I'm gonna have to stay home." So this was a rare thing. And he said, "Gee, this heartburn's really bothering me. Give me another Tum." And I'm thinking, okay, so, all right, how about going to the doctor? "No, I don't feel well enough to go to the doctor." That was a Thursday. Luckily, one of his physician friends came over on Friday, and as they were just chatting, I said, "Patty, what do you think? This guy wants me to go to a cardiologist. What do you think?" And he's in his mid-60s. And I thought, "Gee, that's great. Let's call the cardiologist right now, because there's no way I can get him to go, but maybe his friend could get him to go." And sure enough, we had made an appointment, and he got an EKG, they did a stress test, and he had something that I don't know the name of it, but they said was basically a silent heart attack, which is what all the heartburn was. So my advice is, when you have heartburn, think of what it might be. There are all sorts of signs. Don't ignore the signs. I mean, he had signs. He was just in so much denial. As a matter of fact, when he got the EKG, he just, "Oh, the EKG must be wrong. I don't have heart disease, blah, blah, blah." And he was a man in his 60s, was overworked, overstressed, and overweight. And it just happens. It really, don't ignore the signs. One of the other initiatives that we had done was at Jersey Shore. This was back in, this was 2013. And all the people at the cardiovascular intensive care unit, we had this beautiful, beautiful facility. And when you waited, the patient waiting area was almost like this. It was very big. You got off the elevator, just waited, and it was a hustle bustle thing. It wasn't family friendly. And you're sitting there, and you're sitting there for hours waiting for your loved one to come out of surgery. And one of the things that we decided to do was give a waiting room, a family waiting room, which was an enclosed suite, actually, with their own restrooms, because you're sitting in a thing like this, but you're scared to death the doctor's going to come out, so you can't even go to the restroom because you don't want to miss the doctor. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful room. There's a coffee station. As a matter of fact, we even put in 2 like reclining chairs, because some of these people, some of the patients are in surgery for 5 and 6 hours. So it was just a place for people to stay. I'm sitting there. All I wanted to do was just be by myself and pray, and everybody's walking by, and and the doctor's talking to you, but just 3 or 4 people around you. So this was something a little room for the doctor to come and talk to you and just explain things to you, and it's another initiative that I'm very proud of. One of the other things we did was nursing scholarships, which I'm proud of, and then we had put in our ambulances, just something that I guess to take EKGs. I'm not sure what we did with the ambulances, except we put something in so that they would have information when we got to the emergency room. I just don't want to say it's the wrong thing, but we have another friend who asked me when I told her I was coming here. She said, "Please get this word out." She also had indigestion. And this is a very well-known woman. Her name is Anita. And we're sitting there ready to go. We had a meeting to go tour this cardiovascular unit. And we're waiting for Anita and waiting for her, and she's late. And she's never late for any event. She's at every event. And she didn't show up. And she didn't show up because she was at a doctor's office and she had just had a calcium score test. And they said she was going to have quadruple bypass surgery. So anyway, as it turned out, she didn't need quadruple bypass. She just needed triple bypass. But that's where she was. So all she said was she had many, many signs: heartburn, just feeling sluggish, feeling tired, just as my husband did. Don't ignore the signs. Just don't ignore the signs.
Yeah, and she asked you to share that story.
She did ask me to share that because she
because
wants
of
the
the
word out.
message.
She wants the word out.
Yeah.
She wants the word out. She said, "Please, if I can be of help to anybody, don't ignore the signs." And she
Yeah.
did ask me to share it. Yeah.
Yeah, and through the work of the foundation, you were able to communicate and educate.
That is one of our missions, to educate women in Monmouth. It was Monmouth, Ocean, and Middlesex, and now it's all throughout the system.
Well, now the signs for women are different, aren't they? Doctor,
Yeah.
can you share, because you have the traditional pain in your left arm or
Yeah.
the traditional so-called symptoms for men. It's different for women, no? And what should they be looking for, thinking about?
It's very commonly different in women. It can also be common in other subgroups like diabetics, people with kidney disease, and people after age 80 years old. But definitely women stand out as definitely more high risk than men in the sense that their symptoms can go unnoticed for a longer period of time. And you can see where these screening programs play a role, where education plays a role, because a lot of the stories that Patty was discussing, the common theme there is that the screening programs are an opportunity there for your initial education, initial introduction to some of these terms, these medical terms. And that's your first portal into then saying, you know what, you need to see your doctor, and then further education goes on from there, and then that's where your prevention programs start, and that's why it's very important. These stories about indigestion, it's one of the most common themes, where, I just there was a woman the other day, about a week ago, that we were taking care of, and for 30-some years, her and her husband thought they were living a healthy lifestyle. They worked hard every day, raised 2 good kids, and she had a heart attack. And she thought it was indigestion. She called her primary care doctor from Atlanta, thinking that it was just indigestion. And it's a very common theme. And that's where the screening programs come in. And you mentioned, the calcium score screening, the ultrasound screening is important. Everyone's different. You can't give a blanket recommendation with regards to screening, but clearly there's a certain age where, both in women and men, where at some point you should talk to your primary care doctor or your cardiologist and say, you know what, am I someone that needs to be screened? And if so, what's the best mechanism to do that?
Mm-hmm. And the Women's Heart Fund with Hackensack Meridian has such a diverse group of folks that are involved too, right?
We do.
With your board. And
we
so,
do.
And Doreen, how has your experience been? What do you see in 2021 for the board? And also, by the way, so we don't forget, how do folks get involved with the Heart Fund, particularly if they want to donate resources to help further your cause?
Well, we do have an event coming up in June that we can give you that information on, and then Jeannie, you can add that to the calendar for us. That would be great. Thank you. I got involved with the board in 2009 after going to a couple of their events, and I was amazed at the group of women that were running it. They were so inspiring, and as a woman, I have 3 daughters, I have a mom, and you always just, you know how powerful knowledge is or can be. So I wanted to know what to look for and how to be smart about staying healthy. As it turns out, my mother actually needed mitral valve replacement surgery. She's doing great now. She's almost in her 10th year of that, so she might have to have that new surgery you were just talking about, which would be much better than what she went through. I have friends who had daughters born with heart issues that luckily we're all taken care of. And like you, Terrence, a friend of mine, her daughter was 21 years old when she was constantly having these heart palpitations, and they were saying it was stress, it was too much coffee, it was this, that, and the other thing. She was lucky that at one point, I think she was in Jersey Shore when she was having an episode, and they realized that it was that STV.
SVT, yeah.
Yes. So she was able to have the ablation, and thankfully now at 24, 25, she's doing wonderful. But again, like Patty had said, you need to know your body, and you need to know when something doesn't feel right. You have to learn to listen to your gut and advocate for yourself. Say, you know what? It's not too much caffeine. It's not too much stress. We're all stressed. We're mothers, we're daughters, we're husbands, we're all doing so much today, but we need to stop and pause and say, something doesn't feel right. What could it be? And then obviously you seek out the professionals to help you figure out what the problem is.
It's true, and they're professionals that really, really know what they're doing. When I was having the SVT episode, one of the fantastic paramedics came in. He started a line, and he said, well, Terrence, what we're going to do now, because the heart's 220 beats, it's blowing out of my ribcage. He said, what we're going to do now, we're going to inject you with adenosine. Great. What's that? He said, well, what it's going to basically do is, stop your heart and then restart it. Or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what it was. So I was like, Jeannie, can you get his number and just like any identifying information? And so, right? I mean, it's close, right? So adenosine, apparently it disrupts the rhythm and gets it back. But I remember very distinctly, unless he was just having a little joke on my behalf, he said, we're going to stop your heart and restart it. And I said, okay, well, let's do it. So the professionals that are trained in this kind of thing, they're incredibly good at what they do, right? And if somebody, for example, coded right here and now, it may be the doctor isn't carrying elucidated stents. Are they still called elucidated? Did I get the word right? Oh my God, I did read that book. But you need to be brought to the facility, right? And you need immediate care, and that ties into something that, by the way, is right here in Bellworks, thanks to Team Life and Jim Schatzel and his team. AEDs, automatic external defibrillators. Jim, can you throw some stats out for us about how many minutes you have by the time you go down and when you need that care, and the importance of time and the importance of AED deployment, like they have right here in Bellworks?
I appreciate it. What a privilege to be here today, and I just wanted to thank Bellworks and the Holmdel Chamber, and of course Terrence and Jeannie for this wonderful invite, and to meet everybody here today. So my paramedic career started out of volunteering in my first aid squad in Colts Neck in the fire department, and really wanting to do that. What happened when I got out, within a matter of months, the frustration that I had was unbelievable. That I had all this training. I interned at Johns Hopkins and Shock Trauma Center, came back to my home state to start being able to practice as a paramedic, and found out that from the time of the event to the time of the arrival of the ambulance, which on average is 15 minutes, if something isn't done prior to that, in certain emergencies like sudden cardiac arrest, the patient's not going to do very well. So I just spoke for about 90 seconds. So every 90 seconds in America, somebody suffers sudden cardiac arrest. That's 1,000 people a day. It happened yesterday, it's happening while we're doing this panel, and it will happen tomorrow. Out of those 1,000 people, only 5% survive. And that's what the incredible system that we have in America here. Why does that happen? Is because if I collapsed right now, I agree with you, Terrence, I'm gonna do fine. Because somebody's gonna start CPR, because we have many trained people up here, and there's an automated external defibrillator that's available. I happen to have one by my feet, but if the one's not here, it's just upstairs for when you came into Bellworks here. And if that's applied in my chest within 60 seconds, I have a 90% chance of survival. So now I need to go to Hackensack Meridian Hospital. Bayshore will take care of me. They'll do a cath. They'll fix the problem. I'll go to cardiac rehab. I might end up in a facility like Care 1, and then I'll be back to my family there. So that's the importance. We need people that are trained in CPR, and we need AEDs out available as quickly as possible.
And can you speak to the AED? Because for many folks who are not familiar, it's foreign to them. It's intimidating. They want to wait for other folks. And for example, when Jeannie and I were talking about the program today, I was outside a Quick Check or one of the different places, and I thought, if I code right now, I don't know if they have, and I'm not as up to speed on what the law is or should be, but as far as them being required. Now, forward-thinking businesses would be thinking about that kind of thing. But for the average layperson, what do they need to know about an AED? The price points are quite low. The ability to use it, for example, if you have a family member who may have some risk factors, that you may even have it in your home. Can you speak to that a little bit so people understand, well, how can I empower myself?
Absolutely, I appreciate that. So those of you with children, it's like fire extinguishers to us, right? We've always had them around. Maybe we've been formally trained, maybe not. But if there was a small fire in a garbage can, we would pull the fire extinguisher off and know how to use it. Same thing with AEDs. It's just part of our world now. Never be intimidated, because the best feature about an automated external defibrillator is it will not allow you to shock somebody or defibrillate them accidentally. It's an impossibility. The technology is in there. So instead of me training you for a semester on how to read an EKG, the machine does that for you. So if I collapse, you put it on my chest, which gives you audible prompts, voice prompts. It's step by step, guides you through the process. And if I need the defibrillation shock, it's going to go ahead and deliver it. There's very few requirements in our state currently that mandates AEDs. So Bellworks here isn't mandated. They're just a forward-thinking business that wants to keep everybody as safe as possible here. There are some mandates: nursing homes, assisted livings, gyms, from the smallest one to the largest one. Also schools, where there was a law passed a number of years ago for that. But eventually there will be, just like fire extinguishers, a certain amount of square feet should mandate an AED.
And thank you for that. And one other area that you're involved with as well is CPR AED training for first responders and also for business organizations. Can you talk about that process, and how involved is it for companies that want to help give their employees everything they can as far as a knowledge base to protect themselves or their family?
So I've always thought that everybody that I've met wants to take a CPR class. Why haven't they? There's just a few reasons. One is that we're in a financial world, so you want it to be as low cost as possible. Second is you want it to be convenient, because we're all busy. And third is you want it non-intimidating. At least that's the type of class that I want to take if I'm taking something new or something as serious as talking about CPR. So you want to seek out organizations, in my opinion, that are doing it at the right price point, convenient for you, and non-intimidating. It's a 3-hour class that covers adult, child, infant CPR, choking, and the use of an AED. And I think it's a great team building, both for families and for businesses to do that.
Thank you. And Jim's talking about, we're talking about the SCA, the sudden cardiac arrest side of symptoms, the foundation, and you were talking a little bit earlier about symptoms and things to look for men or for women. Sometimes there are no symptoms at all, right? Sometimes it's really a bolt out of the blue, and tragically so. And so you don't know. It's really out of the blue and shocking. And from there, there are organizations, and we want to talk about Victor, where you build and you develop and you expand the legacy of the man, and you expand into different areas that are not necessarily related to heart health. It's philanthropy and community building that is an expression of the love for that family member and their personality and who they are, to share that with others for a long time to come. Can you share Victor's personality, Victor, your brother, and that story, and the kind of work that you're doing in his honor and building that legacy? Because there are folks, like you've experienced tragically, where it's bolt out of the blue and there are absolutely no symptoms whatever, and your life has completely changed forever in a moment. Would you share that with us, Dorothea?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is awesome. Thank you. Because not only did we lose my brother due to heart disease, both my parents my 2 uncles, my aunt, my cousin. So heart disease runs rampant in my family, so it's always on the top of our list of things to think about. But the way the foundation started...
And can we see his picture? I think you have a picture?
Sure.
As well as, I think he has his football number too, I think.
It does, yes, it does. So that was him on his last Easter with the family.
If the camera can see, I'm sorry. I just want the camera to see Victor Zando.
He's holding my daughter, who's a baby at the time, but we kind of cut her out just to get his face and the logo there. But Victor was 40, my father had passed away at 45, my brother was 44, and a very young 44. He had gotten married late, they had just had their first baby. My niece was 15 months old when he passed. He was young, handsome, in good shape. He was always an athlete. He was a runner, and he actually passed away on his run on a Saturday morning. So it was very, very much a shock, to say the least. And a few months later, his best friend, who was also his brother-in-law, Tom Ramhold, came to my husband, Brian, and I and said, I want to start a foundation in Vic's name, and, let's just do some good things in Vic's name. And we both looked at him like he was crazy and said, okay, if that's what you want to do. And that was the genesis of how the foundation started. So what we did then was we started out slowly, and we started just kind of honoring him and his personality, which he was a very simple man, loved sports, loved his family, loved going to church on Saturday night and dinner at his favorite restaurant afterwards, playing ball on Sunday. So we just started out simply by doing memorial awards at his 2 schools that he went to, his 2 Catholic schools. And then from there, it evolved into different missions from those 2 memorial awards. But do you want me to talk about the mission at all?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a twofold mission of tuition assistance for students in middle school and high school in Catholic schools. And the purpose of that really started with, if there is a family having difficulty meeting the demands of tuition due to an illness, a death, a loss of employment, some issue with the family, then we would come in and pay the tuition assistance to keep that child in the school until the family got back on their feet. So that's our tuition assistance program, which we've also nicknamed the Starfish program. So that's our Starfish program. And then our other part of our twofold mission, besides the tuition assistance, is community service. And that has been really varied over the years to helping people. After Sandy, we donated hundreds of gift cards to Lowe's and Home Depot, to PS 41 on Staten Island that have just gotten decimated by Hurricane Sandy. It was more than half the school had really bad issues after Sandy with their homes. We also helped a family up in the Bayshore area, went and bought all the sheetrock and had the Hibernians from Middletown go up and put the sheetrock up for the family. We adopt families at Christmas to try to give them like normal Christmases. We work through lunch break. We do 200 gifts for lunch break every year for people down in Red Bank. We've adopted a youth group down in Long Branch. So our community service is really varied. It's kind of as it comes up and as we see the need. Besides the lunch break thing we've been doing, I think, for like 12 years now. We've been doing it for a long time. So we marry the two as best we can, the tuition assistance and the community service, and we just keep doing good things in Vic's name. And that was really the whole point of it to start.
And what's so interesting about that, it's really the ripples in the pond, right? Because from Victor, your brother, and his legacy and the love for your brother, the ripples in the pond of all the good work that's being done, and also really the ripples in the pond from just the folks getting together here, and you're probably starting to see the interconnectivity of everyone who's here, right? You know, we talked about a little earlier about COVID-19, the pandemic that's receding, thank God, and depending on where you sit, it's either a calm seas if you've been really fortunate, or it might be stormy weather for certain families, and then tragically a hurricane for others, right? So it's changed so many different things, and that's certainly true in the world of medicine. Telemetry, telemed, I should say, not telemetry is, I think, what I was in after I got my surgery. But telemedicine, very, very big, right? Face-to-face, virtual calls, and that kind of thing. Different use of apps and other types of tech. And there are companies that are harnessing that, right? That are trying to think, what's the next big thing? How do we get these incredibly talented hands to the folks that need them now? And one such company is right here in Bellworks, again, an extension of Ralph Zucker's vision in Somerset Development, which is Bell Health. And so, Brian, we'd like you to share a little bit about what you're doing as owner of Bell Pharmacy and the Bell Health team, and how are you guys looking to the future today of cutting-edge medicine and use of technology?
Thank you for that. So yes, Bell Health has had its grand opening just back in January. It's actually Bell Health Day for Holmdel Township. The mayor awarded us a day. So January 27th is now Bell Health Day.
No co-pays that day?
Yeah, I'll just skip that one. So with regard to what we're doing at Bell Health, we are a medical health space introducing multiple different providers, specialist providers to care for the entire Bell Works community, the Holmdel community, the greater Monmouth County area. We have a variable set of physicians, so we have everything from urgent care, primary care. We also are introducing dermatology and psychology, so a cumulative offering in Bell Health where we could take care of any of your real needs. We're also doing COVID testing, some antibody testing as well. Again, keeping us on the forefront of that, pandemic in the hopes of it waning away from us, and more information is obviously valuable to the community. So that's something you can always come in and pursue. I'm also owner of the pharmacy at Bell Works, and that also has a supplemental focus aside from also doing COVID testing, and we're going to be looking into antibody testing as well. But more focused on what the physicians, doctors were saying earlier, we have very high-end supplements and nutrition focus. We'll have wellness products to keep your heart healthy and to make sure that you are in the best possible shape in the event that, God forbid, you do contract the virus. We want to make sure that you have the ultimate level of supplements. And as part of that, we're also offering home delivery. We're offering a myriad of different services, and the pharmacy is set to grand open actually this coming Monday, March 1st. So we'll be introducing, a lot of our services there. You should probably see a lot more of us online. We'll be promoting on social media as well as any other platform, of course, Chamber of Commerce, which I will be joining shortly. There's also a component of our, medical suite. It's called Bell Wellness. That is chiropractic, physical therapy, also important. If you're not, highly active and you'd like some supervised, exercise to make sure that you are in good shape and you can handle the exercise you're pursuing, going to Bell Wellness is certainly an offering that you can pursue. They can coach you on that. Other than that, we're really into the community. We're into heart health for everybody as far as even children. Bell Health, as well as the pharmacy at Bell Works, sponsored the Holmdel Little League. They just put a new field up, so we helped them and donated some money to them to help make sure that the kids, if and when COVID allows them to, get back to sports and get back to some real activity. That's something we're really focused on as well. Just a wide-reaching medical, wellness, pharmacy type of gathering, and we want to make sure we can offer it to the entire, Holmdel, Bell Works, greater community for sure.
That sounds great.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned telehealth. With regards to cardiology, it's I see about 4 or 5 people every day that are using some type of technology on their own, and it triggers either a visit because of a concern for possible irregular heartbeat, which is an important factor. A lot of the types of irregular heartbeats, a lot of them are benign. Obviously, as uncomfortable as SVT is, it's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna give you strokes. It's not gonna give you a heart attack. But there are some irregular heartbeats that can be dangerous. And one of the greatest inventions are those cardio devices that you see, the Apple Watches. They're picking up a lot of atrial fibrillation, and which is very important. After age 70, about 10 to 15% of people get atrial fibrillation. After age 80, about 25% of people get atrial fibrillation. And everyone just always assumes, they'll feel it if they get it, but that's not true. About 50% of atrial fibrillation, the patients will not feel it. And atrial fibrillation is important because, in relation to the heart, it can cause strokes. And so the next phase where, the American Heart and the American College of Cardiology is going is, they did great with preventing heart attacks, and obviously we can do better. We're going to continue to do that. But over the past 7 or 8 years, the big key thing now is stroke prevention, and that's where things are going with telehealth in relation to cardiology.
Well, that's fantastic. Brian, you're going to say something, Brian?
Yeah, just to piggyback onto that, we're actually in conversations right now with bringing in a peripheral arterial disease specialist, either vascular or cardiac surgeon, if one would be interested. But we actually have a laboratory inside of our Bell Health, which is leaded out and eligible for procedure. So a lot of these minimally invasive procedures that the surgeon was telling us about, these are some things that we're going to be attempting to offer here at Bell Works and Bell Health particularly.
Well, if we have a contract lawyer in the audience, I know we have an executive. We can put that all together before you leave.
I'd love to see it.
Brian had mentioned a little bit about nutrition, and that's obviously key. And you're a generation of surgeons that I would argue, more attuned to the whole body, the whole health of the entire body. Can you chat a little bit about? You mentioned about stress earlier, but what are some of the things that people should be thinking about nutrition and diet and exercise, and what are the key things that you want people to leave this meeting with tonight? And by the way, if anybody wants to text any questions to 732-492-2500, because in a little while we're going to open up to Q&A. So it's 732-492-2500 if you have any questions for our fantastic panel. But Dr. Younan, can you share the tips? What should folks really be thinking about in 2021?
With regards to nutrition, it's a huge topic, but I think it's easy to break it down in the sense that the best way to do it is think of it simply. If you look at of all the people that have lived till their 90s or 100s, if you look at all these things, you've probably heard of the blue zones that people talk about all across the world. The blue zones, for those who don't know, are areas in the world where people have a higher percentage of individuals living till 90 or 100 years old. You have there's a spot in Japan, I think it's Okinawa. You have a spot in Greece. You have another spot in southern Italy, I think Sardinia. Another part in southern France, Costa Rica, and then somewhere in California. Whether you look at those groups in the blue zones or some of the groups that people have looked at, particularly, Tufts is a big nutritional program and dietary program. There's a few things that are in common, and one is that they're always moving, they're always exercising, and it's not the type of exercise what we tend to kind of rely on, where you hit the gym for an hour, bust it on the treadmill as hard as you can, and then you go home and you do everything you were doing before. It's more of movement and activity that's incorporated into their daily life. The French walk everywhere they go. If they want to go to the market, they go every day to the market. They buy their bread on a daily basis. They buy their fruits on a daily basis. They buy their coffee on a daily basis, and they're walking wherever they go. In southern Italy, it's the same thing. They live in these small mountainous villages. They're walking up and down, to the mountains, whether it's going to the church, going to the market. So it's incorporated into their daily life. Japan obviously has a huge amount of fish that they eat. All those countries also, too, the one thing they have in common, too, in addition to movement, is they eat about 1,500 calories per day. Here in the U.S., most of the U.S. is eating at least 2,000 to 2,500 and upwards of that even. So the key thing there is you have to eat 1,500 calories a day or less. Stress, we mentioned before, these societies tend to have areas of ways of relieving stress. They have good social networks, good family networks, good friendship networks. Work is not their entire life. There's a better work-life balance that's common in these communities as well. They tend to also focus on, they're all plant-based diets. So in general, outside of Japan, which is predominantly fish, but even in Japan, the people underestimate the amount of vegetables that they eat. But in general, if you look at all those societies where they live till 90, 100 years old, it's always a plant-based diet. It doesn't mean you can't have meat, doesn't mean you can't have chicken and a little bit of carbs, but 90% of it is plant-based, and the rest is small portions of carbs, small portions of red meat, small portions of chicken. And the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology always promote the Mediterranean diet as their main diet too, that they recommend to their patients. And the Mediterranean diet, people don't realize it is essentially a plant-based diet, so you don't have to just be strict vegetarian in order to maintain heart health. The plant-based diet is perfectly fine with a little bit of meat. And when people always ask me how much meat is okay, if you're getting red meat, for instance, that's it's fresh from the butcher, or it's organic, it's grass-fed, you can actually have red meat once a week or once every 2 weeks and not have it impact your health. And the American College of Cardiology released a statement of that about a month ago. They have changed their position over the years. So those are the common elements that you see in people that are going to live long, and the foods that they eat too are important, because that's where they get their daily supplements. The vitamin D, the vitamin C that we're always emphasizing here, the people take coenzyme Q10 that you see here and the red yeast rice, and there's so many supplements that we take here, but over there, it's just incorporated into their natural diet and their natural foods, and that's why I think they tend to live a very long time. And obviously, we can't translate the society that they live there and here, but you can take two or three of those things and try to do it as best as you can over here.
Do you have any questions for him on that? I mean, you just went over so many different things. In fact, I think you gave the entire floor plan for the farmers market in Bellworks, right, for the next round. All that wonderful.
It really is a simple solution. It takes discipline, and we're not used to it because of the way we've grown up here. Mm-hmm. But over there, basically, what it is, it's just easy to eat well. Over here, it's easy to eat bad. Now think about it, right? You can hop in your car and go to McDonald's in 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah. If you live in one of these other countries, you probably have to drive an hour to get to a McDonald's, and that's really the difference.
How about that? It's amazing.
What about the red meat? I mean, the red wine or the dark chocolate? Does any of the fun food play into?
Great question.
So the red wine, I've always been a little bit skeptical about it for many years. There is probably some truth to it, but I think.
Did you research it?
Well, it's interesting because the American College of Cardiology for a while was recommending 1 or 2 alcohol drinks a day for the past probably 10 or 15 years. They were saying 1 or 2 for men and 1 for women. They've changed that recently as well, and they're saying that keep it down to 1 or 2 a week. And what they found is that alcohol brings on other problems. So although you may prevent blockage in your arteries by drinking alcohol, it increases your rate of atrial fibrillation, it increases your rate of stroke, it increases your chance of getting dementia. There may be some credence to the fact that it can increase Parkinson's. So the basic story is they think that too much of alcohol is not good either. The reason they changed their position too is that the alcohol in these countries may be different. For instance, we're drinking our wine predominantly here from the U.S. You could debate where it comes from, California, Oregon, all these other places, but in the end, most of it is domestic. An Italian or a French person living in their country, they're getting it directly from their mountain community. They think the polyphenols that are in the wine there may be a little bit different than what we have here. So, and then the other thing is that I think we've also overemphasized, we took one element out of those societies and we said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drink wine because it's easy to do. But the reality is that, sure, the Italian and the Frenchman, they may have a glass of wine every day, but it may not be that's what's keeping them alive. It's the fact that they're walking every day. It's the fact that all their food is fresh. They're eating cheese that's fermented cheese. They're eating fatted cheese or fresh goat cheese. It's not, some of the other cheeses that are more fatty.
The sleep patterns, too. I believe the sleep patterns play into that strongly, too, right?
Sleep patterns are huge, and that's definitely a component of their societies. Sleep there is more protected, and it's... we know that lack of sleep causes AFib. We know lack of sleep causes hypertension. We know lack of sleep causes diabetes. So you can see all these things adding up. Stress causes bad sleeping, which causes a lot of problems.
You've mentioned AFib quite a bit today. It's rather prevalent.
It's huge. It's huge. AFib is huge, and part of it's because people are living longer, but part of it is it was just unnoticed. And I think we started to learn a little bit more about atrial fibrillation. There's these, people have their own devices, but the medical community has had these chips that we can implant under people's skin. It only takes 5 minutes to put it in. And there were different medical reasons to put those into people over the years. And we've probably been using it for about 10 or 12 years now. And we've had the opportunity to watch those people now for 10 years and see how much undiagnosed irregular heartbeats come up. And one of them is atrial fibrillation. It's huge.
That's interesting. Why would somebody get that? Do they have to have symptoms to get something implanted, or anybody can do it?
So a lot of patients, for instance, someone would come into the emergency room with a stroke, and they would get a couple of tests done. They would get their carotid Dopplers done. Mm-hmm. Those didn't show any signs of blockages. They would get some other tests done on the heart, like an echocardiogram. That wouldn't show a source for the stroke. They would have a neurologist take a look at them. They also couldn't identify the source of the stroke. So then they would be discharged from the hospital. Before those patients were discharged, they would have a chip implanted.
Gotcha.
We found that 25% of people that had the chip implanted ended up having AFib, and that was the source of their stroke.
Wow.
And so that's why the people that for many years, everyone was shrugging their shoulders, we don't know why they had a stroke, 25% of them were AFib. And if you count the number of strokes that happen every year and multiply that times 25%, it's a huge number.
Sure is.
Thank you so much for that information. You know what we're going to do? We're going to open up to some questions, right, from the folks, whether it's from sending them in or from the audience here as well. And then we have, as we're all already learning so many valuable things from foundation work to a direct cardiology experience. It's so appreciated. And we really have such a fantastic team from Hackensack Meridian Health, right? You're doing so many different things. So before we leave, we want to make sure that we go around the room. We're going to do questions. We're going to go around the room to share what your thoughts are that you want folks to leave with today, right? About both, what you're doing and what you're interested in and what you think matters, and how folks can reach you for the foundation, for the women's the Heart Fund, and that folks should get involved because you could just help so many people by getting involved. And your information is so invaluable, Shaddy. Thank you so much. It's really fantastic. Jeannie, would you help with facilitate the Q&A?
Sure. Okay. So we had a couple questions come in. One of them is, what makes the Bayshore Medical Center cath lab unique? What is there technology there that makes it unique? If you can speak to that.
Sure. From day one, we had a good opportunity at Bayshore. I mean, I think there was a confluence of events that happened, over the period of years there, and we had an opportunity to build it from scratch. As I mentioned to you before, we sat down with with me, my father, the hospital administrator, some of the other doctors that are in the program, the nursing staff, and the emergency room, and we said, this is the way we're going to run our program. It's going to be different than the way we run it at other hospitals. And really, we just focused on getting the patient up to the cath lab as soon as possible, cutting out a lot of the wasted time frames, working with EMS. If EMS sees an EKG that's abnormal, and they think it's a heart attack, we'll activate the team right away. We're not going to wait for that patient to come into the emergency room and then redo the EKG and then take another 15 or 20 minutes and have them evaluate it and then call the cath lab team to come in the middle of the night and take another 20 minutes for them to come in. As soon as we know that there's a heart attack, they're activated, the team comes in. Without any delay, they come straight up to the cath lab and they're treated immediately for their heart attack. And just to give you an idea of so the average person knows how much difference time makes, the state had set a cutoff of 90 minutes to get an artery open from the time they enter the emergency room to the time the heart attack is solved by opening up the artery. From day one, we set 45 minutes as our benchmark at Bayshore, which is half of what the state recommends. Last year, we were at 39 minutes, and we're the best in the state. Yeah, it's the best time in the state.
So that's worth repeating. The best in the state.
Right.
Cutting a time of 90 minutes mandated by the state to an average of 39 minutes.
And it's a great program. You can, Mr. Cetera is here in the audience. You can see the nurses run the program now. They know what to do. We've worked with them over the years. I don't necessarily have to be there. Any doctor that's on call, any cardiologist, any emergency room doctor, the system is very fluid. It's a great infrastructure that we set in place there, and other programs in the system are emulating that now.
That's fantastic.
Living here in Holmdel, that's very comforting, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just minutes away.
I was just going to say that. That's good news for all of us Holmdel residents.
Exactly. And this is another question. Someone had texted me, and I think that you already answered a lot about diet, but they just asked what your opinion was on the high-protein diets. I think I probably already know your opinion, but...
The high-protein diets, it's hard to... I don't like to make any generalizations on different diets, so I can tell you about the high-protein diet. If you needed to use it as a kickstart to lose weight or build some muscle bulk, or which is important for metabolism. You don't have to be a bodybuilder, but the importance of protein is building muscle, which then will help your metabolism. And when you have a faster metabolism, that will get your sugar down and help you lose weight. So the high protein diets, I think, are good for short term. The danger with the high protein diets is that long term, if you have too much protein, it's not good for your kidneys. So that's why we always emphasize diets that are in moderation, and that's why we always focus on some type of plant-based diet.
Okay, thank you. And Jim, this question's for you from Assemblyman Jerry Scharfenberger, and he's asking, is there any legislative fixes that are needed to help with the sort of programs that might be life-saving? And if so, he said he's happy to help with them.
That's great. Well, it's a great assemblyman we have for us all in the state, and he's done so much for us already. I do believe that a lot of financial decisions sometimes get prompted by some regulations. So we have, as I mentioned, our school systems have a law that says you need to have an AED in the school. It says in the school. And now what happens is I send my 7th grader or my sophomore out there on the track or on the baseball field or the lacrosse field, and perhaps there's an AED out there. So I think we've done very well in certain areas like schools to get the protection inside, but we really need to do the outside. A lot of technology out there. You hopefully will start seeing some AEDs instead of just on a wall inside. Outside in a temperature-controlled case, that could be out 365 days a year. So I think legislation moving that forward, and I'm always in the belief that the square footage legislation will really move this AED movement where it needs to be.
Thank you. Another question from someone tuning in, Ms. Kaylin Harper, is how much do genetics impact heart health?
Genetics is huge. It's a very big factor, and obviously you can't control your genetics, but what you can do is you can try to prove that you have those genetics. For instance, Victor clearly had a strong family history, and we have so many other families have the same type of family history where you have multiple generations of family members that die at a young age from cardiac problems. And the good thing about cardiac disease is that if you catch it early enough, you can live longer. People assume that they're destined to die at a certain age or it's their fate, and that's not necessarily true. The technology has advanced tremendously that you can keep these people going for another 30, 40 years easily. The key thing is they need that opportunity to know that they have a problem, and that's where screening comes in. And if Victor were someone's patient today, they would probably do a calcium score on him. He would walk into someone's office, and they would say, they would do an interview with him, and they say, my dad, my uncle, my father, and so forth died in their mid-40s or mid-50s, and right there immediately, even if he had no medical problems, he could be a runner, no blood pressure problems, no diabetes, non-smoker, you would send him for a calcium score. The calcium score would either tell you he has calcium or he doesn't. If he has calcium, then he needs further testing to make sure that he's not going to have the same problems as his other relatives. If he doesn't have calcium, then he's lucky he had other genes that were passed on to him that from another portion of the family. But genetics is very, very important. And interesting to note is that's probably why some of these societies that we mentioned before in the blue zones tend to live a very long time, because they tend to be fairly insular, and they tend to stay local, marry local, and grow up local. And so those good genes are passed on, and it ends up being a survival mechanism for them that they don't even know about probably.
Could you talk a little bit about a calcium score, because it doesn't have anything to do with the bones, that calcium, or does it?
It doesn't, no, and it's not necessarily related to, unless you're taking extraordinary amounts of calcium. So the people that are taking calcium for prevention of osteoporosis or for other reasons, as long as it's the recommended doses, you're not going to affect the calcium that's deposited in your heart. But what we do know is that when someone starts off with a blockage, it starts off as what we call a soft plaque, meaning maybe a small issue of cholesterol building up in the artery. After a period of time, the body deposits calcium there in an effort the body thinks it's healing that plaque.
It's going there. It's trying to help.
Right, it's trying to help. So it's depositing calcium in that plaque. And so we use that calcium deposition as a way of picking it up on a CAT scan.
Okay, I think we have a question from the audience.
Yes, thank you. Doctor, what are your thoughts on a baby aspirin a day?
The baby aspirin is a good question. It depends on who you are. So, and again, that was something that's shifted over the past decade as well. In the past, we used to tell everyone to take an aspirin after age 40. Then we said only men after age 40 need to take it, women don't need to take it. Now it's a little bit more nuanced. Most men, and again, they should confer with your doctor obviously before just taking my recommendations, but in general, most men after age 50 probably should be on an aspirin. Most diabetics probably should be on an aspirin. And the key thing here, especially with in relation to women's health, is women that have a strong family history of stroke should take an aspirin, and even a lot of doctors miss that point. So if you're talking to your doctor and you're a woman, and you know that you have had multiple family members with a stroke, make sure you tell your doctor that you have multiple family members with a stroke, because if you're 45 years old and you have multiple family members that had a stroke, as a woman, you probably should take aspirin.
And specifically baby aspirin.
And specifically baby aspirin. Most people do not need to take the full dose aspirin. 325 milligrams is not necessary. Usually 81 milligrams is enough. And in Europe, for those people that have relatives or anything that come from Europe, 40 or 50 milligrams is probably enough for aspirin. Here in the US, we don't have that, so we just use the 81 milligram dose. But sometimes we'll tell people just take an aspirin every other day, and that would simulate the European dose of 40 or 50 milligrams daily.
Thank you.
Hi, Kerry Kuskowski. I just wanted to thank everybody, and very informative information. I'm glad I came today. I know Jim from the Colts Neck Business Association. I've been to his office for meetings, and very informative, and it's an interesting office. And Dorothea, I know from a few different chambers. Thank you for being here, and everybody too. I did have a question. If your family is fairly healthy without any heart issues or whatever, what is an age? I mean, I'm going right now to my primary. I'm going to set up an appointment to get a scan, I guess, or a screening. And what is an age that you would start to, check your heart if you think that you're healthy and eating right,
It's never too early to start. What we do know is that heart problems build up over decades, oftentimes 20 or 30 years. And we know that because during the Vietnam War, a lot of our soldiers, died. They were in their teens, and when they did the autopsies on those soldiers, they found that they already had buildup of plaque in their coronary arteries. So we know that this process starts in your teen years and continues into your 20s and 30s. So it's never too late. I mean, clearly a 25-year-old that's going to see their primary care doctor is not going to get the same screening as someone who's 45 or 65 or 75 and so on. But it's never too late. And even if you're 25 years old, you should go see your doctor once a year, get your blood pressure checked, get your sugar checked, get your cholesterol checked, and that may be all you need. Someone else may need a calcium score, someone else may need a stress test. There's different variables there, but it's never too early to start that process.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for all of this information and for coming together for us today. One of the things we've been talking about is watching the signs. So this isn't really a question, but it's just kind of a little PSA for everybody that's watching. About a year and a half ago, my father was driving on Route 34, headed south, and he was swerving. And somebody, thank God, called the police because they thought something was wrong because it was midday. It turns out, based on medicine he was having, he was internally bleeding. And they were able to take him to Bayshore, and they did a fantastic job at Bayshore to save him. Whatever medicine he was on, he was bleeding internally. About 6 months ago, my husband and I got cut off by somebody on 35. And it was a little after happy hour time, and we followed them up 34, and they literally were swerving everywhere. And I was like, ooh, either long night at 7 o'clock, and then I thought maybe it was like my dad, maybe something happened. We called the police. We followed him through Holmdel until the police got there and got him. And I told my girlfriend over the weekend, she's like, what's new? And I, long story short, said, oh, we got a tour of Holmdel the other day following some car. Don't know what happened. She called me Monday afternoon and said that she had spoken to an EMS worker at a closing who said, she's like, what's new? And he said, we had a good one the other day. We had a traffic stop and the man had had a stroke. And we got him to the hospital in time. So I'm just telling everybody, because if you see someone swerving, it may be something other than they're looking at their phone or they've had too much to drink. It could be a medical episode. So just kind of little PSA for everybody. But thank you for everything today.
Thank you, Mary. Any other questions? I think we're good.
No, thank you. But that you reminded me, and all of us, of the parable of the starfish, right? You never know who you're going to help. You never know whose life you may save. Just as an example, and I want to thank Assemblyman Jerry Scharfenberger for stopping in today through text. He's one of the most effective assemblymen in the state of New Jersey. I was on a call with him just recently on a different issue that has to do with legislation. So whether it's the healthcare framework, and even within the healthcare framework, it's all within a regulatory framework, right? So for example, whether it's a quick check, and I'm wondering if I code right now, do they have an AED in there? And they actually didn't. great place. But, if Wawa has an AED, maybe I'll go to Wawa, won't I? So those competitive forces should key into that. Can you put a quick price point? I think it's important to note for anybody who's hearing AED, should I have one? Why don't they get them? Just to make it so obvious why even if for personal use everyone should have one, how much are they?
They're not. When they first came out, they were $6,000.
Right.
So that was a big number.
Yep.
The number's still big, but it's not outrageous. It's $1,500. The reason it's $1,500 and will be, it's never going to be a $100 piece of equipment. It's a Class 3 medical device regulated by the FDA. So there's a lot of research and development there and regulatory, as it should be. It's a life-saving device. So the market has found its price. It's been $1,500 for the last 7 years. We don't see it going anywhere. That's where it's at. That other scary statistic I talked about, 1,000 people a day, 700 of them will have their sudden cardiac arrest at home. So I'm thrilled that we're putting AEDs in public places and recreation places and hospitality places. Where they really need to get to is homes. So that's something to think about. I always say if you have the ability to go ahead and do that, you should consider it.
Well, I have one in the home, but I'm just reminded, I don't remember the last time I checked the battery, right?
So another thing that we always suggest is, just like anything in our world, there's lots of places to get lots of things. And there's plenty of websites and companies out there that will be happy to drop ship you a box. Good luck. You might want to hook up with a company that specializes not just in the box, but the rescue readiness of it, the maintenance of it, and some place to go back to questions with.
Exactly. You were going to say something?
No, I just think that's a great idea. I mean, people need to know this.
Yeah.
And people need to know it's that available.
Yeah. And so there you've heard it, $1,500. So what's stopping your local business or community, what have you, the number is $1,500. And that kind of brings it home for a lot of people that say, that's not even the price of my MacBook Pro.
Right.
Right?
And not only, it's like a smoke detector in your house.
Right.
It's, one of those things that might save your life.
Yeah, and briefly, one of the things that the Chambers of Commerce do, and certainly we do here as well, is interact with our legislators, whether assemblymen, senators, commissioners, now they're formerly known as freeholders, is to interact on a regular basis on legislation. So I do want to update, there was just signed into law. Part of this is about access, and this was a bill that was to increase access to adult diagnostic cardiac catheterization, primary angioplasty, and elective angioplasty services becomes law. It basically speaks to the Department of Health and certifying, qualifying hospitals to provide full service adult diagnostic cardiac cath, primary angioplasty, and other services. So what's the point? The point is the legislators are also getting at that it's all about access. It's time, it's speed. Time is muscle, right? With heart. So having resources like Assemblyman Scharfenberger, and we have the Hackensack Meridian with Frank Sitar here, there may be some legislation that Hackensack Meridian finds very important to deliver quality care, but there are legislative imperatives that need to take place to make that happen and wind its way through the State House. And so that connectivity is part of really why we all also get together to learn and inform beyond the meeting, beyond today. So what we'd like to do now as we close out, with a huge thank you, by the way, this was really awesome, and I hope everyone took value from it, is to give the takeaway points for the folks that are watching on Facebook, because we have a modest internal because of Bellworks following all the COVID protocols, but thousands of folks are going to hear the points that you want to share with them before we close out now. And I'd like to start, if we can, Dorothea, with you, of what you want to share and what are the key takeaways, or what's the next big thing. If you would start for us, that would be really great.
Sure, thank you. I guess I would like to just have everybody take away that as you said, Terrence, something good can come out of something very, very bad. And we've worked really hard, my family and I, our friends, our board, and all of the people that are involved in the foundation. We've worked really hard to keep Victor's name alive because it was just really important to us personally. And then in the meantime, we wound up helping all these people, right? And we don't really know the we never really know the effect that we have on people, and we don't always know. Sometimes we do know, but in what we do, lots of times we don't know what the effect will be. So we just trust that it is a positive one, and we'll just continue to work our mission, our twofold mission, and incorporate different things in it. And evolve as the world evolves, and where we see a need, we can step in and help. So the Victor Zando Foundation, you can find us at victorzandofoundation.org. Our contact information is in there, and we'd love to have a conversation if anybody has an interest in that.
Well, and Victor's smiling with you right now, and thank you very much
well,
for that.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. James.
Thank you. What an honor to be here, and it's so nice to have like 3D in front of me instead of a screen. So that's a pleasure. I appreciate that very much. At Team Life, I'd like everybody to consider taking some time out of your schedules and considering just being educated and preparing yourself for things that aren't easy to talk about. So we truly hope that none of you are around some of the emergencies that I talked about today. But if you are, dialing 911 gets you started, but now we want to empower you to go ahead and help that person that's in front of you with simple training in CPR and having simple equipment like an AED. I'm so proud of the people that I work with day in and day out. They all are as passionate as I am about helping people. Thanks again for having us.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you being here very much. And Brian, there's an app for that, right?
Sure. Yeah, so we offer telemedicine through Bell Health as well. And what I really want to leave today with, and it's really for the community, it's for my neighbors inside of Bell Works, it's for my neighbors on the surrounding property, and our friends and family out throughout Holmdel. Bell Health is offering comprehensive medical attention, varying services. Visit us at bell-health.com. We're also offering home delivery service for our pharmacy. So when it's open and accepting all prescriptions, we'll be able to do home delivery to our friends and family in and around Holmdel, Monmouth County, even into Ocean and Middlesex counties. We really just want to encourage people to come spend some time at Bell Works. It's a beautiful facility. They're doing an amazing job of keeping everybody safe. The protocols have been guided by Hackensack Meridian, so we know that they're top quality in regards to safety protocol here. And come take a walk. If it's snowing out and it's too cold, there's plenty of space to take your walks here in the facility and pass by the pharmacy or Bell Health or even Bell Wellness to get some additional exercise in. We're here to welcome you. We're here to take care of you, and we're looking forward to seeing you.
Well, thanks. And now let's turbocharge that Women's Heart Fund with Hackensack Meridian. Doreen.
I just, too, want to say thank you for having us here today. I really appreciate the invitation. My advice really is to just have good balance in life, balance with work and nutrition and exercise, and also know your body and listen to your gut and advocate for yourself. You need to seek out the professionals who will listen to you and really listen and not just, shrug you off and say you're a stressed out mom, you're working too hard, or you're drinking too much coffee. You really want to find somebody who will listen to you and go those extra steps to set you up for the right testing and screening to make sure that you are okay. We all are busy and we all have families, and we want to live to be 80 or 90 with a really good quality of life. So.
Thank you, Doreen. You're an integral part of the Holmdel community. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank
you. Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be here and to get the word out about the Women's Heart Fund. As I said, it's our 15th year. We're part of Hackensack Meridian, and we've been very stable through the whole, when it was just Meridian, and now we're part of Hackensack Meridian. I'm just very, very happy and proud to be here. One of our mission is to educate women and to get the word out about heart disease, and it is the #1 killer of women and the #1 killer of people. So I'm very happy to be able to get that out. My advice, again, is listen to your body. I've lived with that. You just can't ignore all these symptoms. Symptoms are telling you something. So thank you. And thank you, Dr. Younan. I think you were I think everybody was invaluable.
Great job, Doc.
And Dr. Younan was also one of our speakers at the Women's Heart Fund. We had our luncheon at Navasink a couple of years ago, and we were lucky enough to have him then. But I think your advice today was, a lot of people don't even know about a calcium score, that it has, you think calcium, you think about your bones. I just learned about a calcium score for, your heart. So you gave us invaluable advice. Thank you. And thank you again for having me.
And absolutely. And just to make sure, can you go over how do folks contact?
The Women's Heart
Correct.
Fund, right? We're on Facebook, the Women's Heart Fund, Women's Heart Fund.
Okay, look it up. Get involved.
Yeah, please. And we will have unfortunately, last year with COVID, our event we went virtual instead of having our event, but we'll hopefully have an event this fall. Okay.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It'll be publicized.
Well, one thing I can say for this fantastic cardiologist, you haven't changed at all since you were 17 and running on those cruises.
Wow.
I mean, look at this guy. He looks fantastic.
So thank you, Terrence. Thank you.
So share your parting thoughts for us. We really appreciate your time today.
I want to thank everyone who set this program up and invited us to be here. I also want to thank every member of the panel here, too. It's a pleasure to speak with everyone here and participate. I think the best thing I can recommend is manage your health. If you look at yourselves, everyone's in the same boat. We spend so much time managing our education, managing our finances, managing our work schedule. You manage everything else, but everyone forgets to manage their health. And managing your health involves taking ownership of it, not leaving it to someone else. Don't leave it to your husband or to your wife. It's your responsibility. Don't leave it to fate. You can manage your health, especially with regards to preventing heart attacks and stroke. We don't expect you to become a doctor. We don't expect you to become a nurse. Managing your health means educating yourself as best as you can, making a list of the appropriate questions, take those questions to a healthcare professional, whether it's your primary care doctor or cardiologist. There's a lot of good doctors here in the community that can help you answer your questions and get you on the right path for whether it's screening or treatment or exercise or diet or nutrition. But in the end, you can only succeed if you take ownership and manage your health.
I have one last question for you, Dr. Younan, if you don't mind. When does one go to a cardiologist? I mean, women, we all go to gynecologists. We go to our primary doctor. When does one decide, or does the primary doctor decide?
There's no set time frame. I think it's a combination of both what you and your primary care doctor want and also what you're comfortable with and what your primary care doctor is comfortable with. There's some primary care doctors that are very comfortable managing a lot of cardiac issues and then don't really need to send you to a cardiologist until you need a stress test or a catheterization or something else. There's others that want a cardiologist to be involved right away. And of course, there's some individuals that they want to see a cardiologist, even if it's just for regular blood pressure control. I mean, it's clearly in the purview of a primary care doctor, but some people request to see a cardiologist, and that's where the dialogue happens between the primary care doctor and the patient. And no one's going to be offended.
So it's up to the patient more than...
Correct. In the end, it's up to the patient.
Correct. Let's say a healthy patient, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Today, and thank you all. You've heard from folks who run foundations and medical institutions, businesses, and all that time and talent. But really, you've heard from Dorothea and Jim and Brian and Doreen and Patty and Shaddy. We're all part of the human condition, working together to make it a better world and a better place. I'm extremely honored to have had the opportunity to host this meeting and the video podcast on the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is 100% volunteer. You can follow us, follow the Chamber at Holmdel Chamber on Facebook. Very simple. And please like and share the great work of Ming from Shared Universe podcast today. It's really important that this information is shared and gets out there, and so folks can be empowered, so we can also be part of the parable of the starfish and help just that one person on this one day and days from here. And also make sure you follow tapintoholmdel.net, which will be reporting on the program today and all the different work that's and the communications with the public. So go to tapintoholmdel.net in the next few days so you can see the video and read about the different things that were talked about today, so we can empower both each other and the world beyond us. I want to thank everyone for coming today. I hope you enjoyed your time. And for the folks that are watching on Facebook Live, please like and share, and have a fantastic and wonderful and safe, heart-healthy month. Thank you.
Thank you so much.